I never thought a birthday gift would unravel my entire life. My name is Margaret, and I turned 62 last April. My sister Denise threw me a small party at her place in Atlanta. Just family, some wine, a coconut cake. The gift that caught my attention wasn't wrapped fancy. It was a slim white box with a logo I'd seen in ads. One of those Ancestry DNA kits. Thought you'd get a kick out of it. Denise said, grinning. I did mine last month. Found out we're part Ghanaian. I laughed it off, but I kept the box. A week later, I swabbed my cheek and mailed it in. Didn't think much of it. I was busy with my consulting work and helping my daughter Shauna plan her wedding. Life moved on. 2 months passed before I even remembered I'd sent the thing. The results came on a Thursday afternoon. I was at my kitchen table in Charlotte, sipping tea, when I opened the email. Most of it was predictable. West African, a little European, some indigenous American. But there was a line that stopped me cold. 14% Carpathian Highland peoples. I'd never heard of them. I Googled it. Barely anything came up. A few academic mentions of a small isolated group in the Eastern European mountains. No photos, no culture write-ups, just footnotes. I called Denise. She pulled up her results while we were on the phone. I don't have that, she said slowly. Not a single %. We have the same parents, same everything. It didn't make sense. Maybe it's a mistake, I said. Or maybe Mama had secrets, Denise muttered. Our mother passed 6 years ago. She grew up in South Carolina, married our father when she was 19, and never talked much about her own childhood. I always assumed it was because things were hard back then. But now I wondered. I hung up and stared at the email again. That's when I noticed the attachment. It was a PDF, fancy design, blue and gold borders. At the top it said, "Congratulations, Margaret. You are invited." I opened it. It was an invitation to something called the Heritage Celebration Gathering. 3 days. All expenses paid except travel and meals. Held in Asheville, North Carolina, less than 2 hours from me. The event was for descendants of rare and historically significant lineages, including the Carpathian Highland peoples. There was a phone number at the bottom. I stared at it for a long time. Then I called. The woman who answered was polite and professional. She confirmed my name, my test results, and my invitation. She said the event was small, exclusive, and designed to bring people together who shared uncommon heritage. "Is this real?" I asked. She laughed softly. "I know it sounds too good to be true, Mrs. Margaret, but yes, we host this every other year. It's part of a cultural preservation initiative. You'll meet others like you. There'll be talks, meals, activities. It's completely legitimate." I asked if I could bring someone. Unfortunately, no. This is for confirmed descendants only. Something about that didn't sit right. But I told her I'd think about it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about my mother, about her silence, about the way she used to get this distant look sometimes, like she was somewhere else entirely. I decided to go. I didn't tell Denise. I didn't tell Shauna. I just packed a bag, booked a cheap motel near the venue, and drove to Asheville on a Friday morning. The event was held at a boutique hotel on the edge of town. Clean, quiet, expensive looking. I checked in at the front desk and was handed a welcome folder with my name embossed on the front. Inside was a schedule, a name badge, and a handwritten note. "Welcome, Margaret. We're so glad you're here." I felt a flutter in my chest. Not excitement. Something else. I went to my room, freshened up, and headed downstairs. The lobby was filled with people, maybe 50 or 60, all ages, all races. I saw a young Asian man in a wheelchair, an older white woman with a cane, a Hispanic couple holding hands, a black man about my age wearing a Morehouse shirt. I didn't feel out of place, but I didn't feel like I belonged either. A woman in a navy blazer approached me. She was maybe 35, with a tight smile and a clipboard. "Margaret?" she asked. I nodded. "Wonderful. I'm Claire. I'll be your point of contact this weekend. If you need anything at all, just find me." She handed me a wristband. It was dark blue with a small gold stamp that said CH14. What does that mean? I asked. Carpathian Highland, 14%. We group attendees by heritage type and percentage. It helps with programming. I put the wristband on. Claire led me to a large conference room where a welcome session was about to start. There were round tables set up with name cards. I found mine. Sitting next to me was a woman named Lorraine. She was white, mid-50s, from Virginia. First time, she asked. Yeah, you? Second. I came 2 years ago. It's interesting. Something in her tone made me look at her closer. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Before I could ask more, a man stepped onto the small stage at the front of the room. He was tall, white, maybe 60. He wore an expensive suit and spoke with the kind of smooth confidence that comes from money. Welcome, he said. My name is Dr. Harrison Vale. I'm the director of heritage research for the company that brought you here. This weekend is about connection, about understanding where you come from, about celebrating the rare and the forgotten. He went on for a while. Talked about genetics, about history, about the importance of preserving cultural memory. It all sounded nice, but I kept watching Lorraine. She wasn't looking at him. She was staring at her hands. After the session ended, I tried to talk to her, but she slipped away. I spent the rest of the day wandering between workshops and presentations. One was about Eastern European folklore. Another was about genetic markers and health. I met a few more people with the Carpathian Highland tag. None of them seemed to know much about it. One man, a younger guy named Terrence, said he'd tried to research it online and found almost nothing. It's like they don't want us to know, he joked. I didn't laugh. That evening, there was a cocktail hour. I nursed a glass of wine and made small talk. Claire kept circling the room, checking in on people, always smiling. Around 8, she approached me again. Margaret, we're hosting a smaller gathering tonight, just for the Carpathian Highland attendees. A more intimate setting. We thought it might be nice for you all to connect. Where? Upstairs, the executive lounge. 9 o'clock. I thought about saying no, but I wanted answers. I'll be there, I said. At 9, I took the elevator to the top floor. The lounge was dimly lit, with soft jazz playing and trays of cheese and fruit laid out. There were maybe 20 of us. Claire was there, along with Dr. Vale and 2 other staff members I hadn't seen before. Dr. Vale raised his glass. To those who carry the rarest threads, he said. We all drank. Then he began to talk about the Carpathian Highland peoples. He said they were a semi-nomadic group who lived in the mountains centuries ago. He said they were known for their resilience, their herbal medicine, their spiritual practices, and, he added, their longevity. That got everyone's attention. He smiled. There are records suggesting that members of this group lived unusually long lives, some well into their hundreds. Someone asked if that was genetic. Possibly, Dr. Vale said. We're still studying it. The room buzzed with interest. People asked questions. Dr. Vale answered smoothly, never giving too much detail. I stayed quiet. After about an hour, people started to leave. I was about to go when Claire touched my arm. Margaret, do you have a moment? I hesitated. Sure. She led me to a side room, smaller, more private. Dr. Vale was already there. He gestured to a chair. Please, sit. I sat. He didn't. I wanted to speak with you personally, he said. Your results are exceptional. Exceptional how? Your Carpathian Highland percentage is among the highest we've seen in years. 14% is significant. Most attendees here are between 3 and 8. I didn't know what to say. We'd like to invite you to participate in a follow-up study, he continued. Completely voluntary, completely compensated. We're trying to map certain genetic markers, and your profile could be very valuable. What kind of study? Blood work. A few scans. Interviews about your family history. Nothing invasive. I felt uneasy. I need to think about it. Of course, take your time. He handed me a card, my direct line. Call anytime. I left the room feeling like I'd just been sold something I didn't ask for. Back in my room, I couldn't settle. I kept replaying the conversation, the way he looked at me, the way Claire stayed close, always watching. I pulled out my phone and searched for Dr. Harrison Vale. There were a few hits, academic papers, a LinkedIn profile, and nothing that felt substantial. No photos, no interviews, just traces. I searched for the company that ran the DNA test. Same thing, a website, some press releases, but no real depth. I put my phone down and stared at the ceiling. Something was wrong. I just didn't know what yet. If you've ever felt like something was off, but couldn't prove it, you know that itch. Like the video if this is hitting close to home. And subscribe. I want to hear what you've been through. The next morning, I skipped breakfast. I needed air. I walked through downtown Asheville, past coffee shops and galleries, trying to clear my head. But the unease wouldn't leave. I went back to the hotel around noon. There was a keynote scheduled for 1 o'clock. I thought about skipping it, but curiosity pulled me in. The room was packed. Dr. Vale was on stage again, this time with a slideshow. He talked about heritage and identity. He showed old photos, grainy images of people in traditional clothing, mountains in the background. These are the last known images of the Carpathian Highland peoples, he said, taken in the early 1900s. After that, they disappeared from historical record. The room was silent. But they didn't vanish, he continued. They dispersed, integrated, and their genetic legacy lives on, in you. I felt a chill. After the keynote, I went back to my room. I needed to think. But when I opened the door, I froze. Someone had been inside. My suitcase was open. My clothes were slightly rearranged. Nothing taken, but everything just a little off. I checked the bathroom. My toiletries had been moved. I called the front desk. Yes, Mrs. Margaret? Has housekeeping been in my room today? Let me check. No, ma'am. Housekeeping was scheduled for this evening. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I grabbed my purse and left the room immediately. I went down to the lobby and found a quiet corner. I called Denise. Maggie, what's wrong? I told her everything. The invitation, the event, the visit from Dr. Vale, my room being searched. Get out of there, she said. Right now. I will, but I need to know what's going on first. No, you don't. Just leave. I wanted to, but something held me back. I'll call you later, I said. I hung up. I thought about going to the police, but what would I say? Someone moved my things? They'd think I was paranoid. I decided to stay one more night, to watch, to listen. That evening, there was a gala dinner, formal attire. I wore a simple black dress and kept to the edges of the room. I watched Dr. Vale. He moved from table to table, shaking hands, laughing, always in control. I watched Claire. She was glued to her tablet, checking names, taking notes. I watched the other attendees. Most seemed happy, engaged. But a few looked like Lorraine had, distant, uncomfortable. I found Terrence near the bar. Hey, I said, you seem like someone who asks questions. He laughed. What gave it away? Have you noticed anything off? His smile faded. Like what? I don't know. Just a feeling. He looked around, then leaned in. Someone went through my stuff today. My heart jumped. Mine too. I thought I was imagining it, he said. But my notebook, I keep it a certain way. It was moved. Did you report it? To who? The people running this thing. He had a point. Listen, he said quietly, I'm leaving tomorrow morning. Early. If you're smart, you will too. He walked away. I stood there, pulse racing. I needed to get out. But first, I needed to know what they wanted. I went back upstairs, but not to my room. I wandered the halls looking for anything unusual. That's when I saw it. A door at the end of the hall. Unmarked, slightly ajar. I glanced around. No one. I pushed it open. Inside was a small office. Desk, filing cabinet. Computer. I stepped in. On the desk was a folder. I opened it. Inside were photos. Headshots. Names. Percentages. My photo was there. 14%. A red star in the corner. Lorraine's photo. 11%. Red star. Terrence's photo. 16%. Red star. There were others. Maybe a dozen total. All with red stars. Underneath the photos was a handwritten note. Priority candidates. Schedule collection for Sunday evening. Confirm transport. My stomach dropped. Collection. Transport. I took a photo with my phone and got out of there. Back in my room, I locked the door and shoved a chair under the handle. I tried to think. They wanted something from us, from people with high percentages. But what? I pulled out the card Dr. Vale had given me. On the back, in small print, was a company name I hadn't noticed before. Vale Biogenetics. I searched it. The website was sleek, professional. It talked about cutting-edge research in regenerative medicine and genetic therapies. I kept digging. I found a deleted news article from 5 years ago. A whistleblower case. A former employee claimed the company was conducting unethical trials, harvesting biological material without consent. The case was settled. Sealed. I felt sick. I called Denise again. I'm leaving, tonight. Thank God. I need you to do something. I'm sending you a photo. If anything happens to me, don't talk like that. Denise, please, just save it. He took the photo of the folder, and I packed my bag. Then I packed my bag. My car was right where I'd left it. The hotel was silent. I crept down the back stairs, avoiding the lobby. I made it to the parking lot. My car was right where I'd left it. I made it to the parking lot. I unlocked it and threw my bag in the back. I was about to get in when I heard footsteps. I turned. Claire was walking toward me. Margaret, she said softly, where are you going? Home. It's the middle of the night. Margaret, she said softly, I couldn't sleep. I just wanted to talk to you. She smiled. It was the same smile she'd worn all weekend, but now it looked different. You should come back inside, she said. I'm fine, thanks. I got in the car. She stepped in front of the door, blocking it from closing. Margaret, please, move. We just want to help you. Help me with what? Her smile faded. You have something valuable, something rare. We can make it worth your while. I'm not interested. You don't understand what you're walking away from. I started the engine. She stepped back. I drove. In my rearview mirror, I saw her pull out her phone. I drove faster. I made it back to Charlotte by dawn. I didn't go home. I went straight to Denise's. She opened the door in her robe, eyes wide. Maggie, I'm okay, I said. But I wasn't. Over the next few days, I tried to piece it together. I called Terrence. He didn't answer. I called Lorraine. Her number was disconnected. I filed a police report. They took notes but said there wasn't much they could do without evidence of a crime. I contacted a lawyer. She said the same thing. I felt helpless. A week later, I got a package. No return address. Inside was a flash drive. I plugged it into my laptop. It was a video. Dr. Vale, sitting in a sleek office. Margaret, he said, I'm disappointed you left early. We had so much to offer you. He leaned forward. The Carpathian Highland peoples weren't just long-lived. They carried a genetic mutation, one that allows for cellular regeneration at an unprecedented rate. We've been studying it for years, and we've learned how to extract it. My blood ran cold. You and the others, your DNA holds the key. With your cooperation, we could change the world. Without it, he paused. Well, let's just say we don't need your cooperation. The video ended. I sat there, shaking. I didn't know what to do. I thought about going public, but who would believe me? I thought about hiding, but where? In the end, I did the only thing I could. I made copies of everything. The photos, the video, the research. I sent them to Denise, to my lawyer, to a journalist I found online who specialized in corporate corruption. And then I waited. Weeks passed. Nothing happened. No calls, no visits, no threats. I started to think maybe I'd imagined it all. But then, one night, I was in my kitchen making tea when I felt it. A tightness in my chest, a pull, like something inside me was waking up. I looked down. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, from something else. I went to the bathroom and turned on the light. In the mirror, I looked the same, but I felt different, stronger, clearer. I lifted my sleeve. There, on my forearm, was a mark I'd never seen before. Small, faint, like a scar, but it was glowing, just a little. I touched it. It was warm. I don't know what they did to me, or what my mother passed down, but I know this. Whatever they wanted, they already got it. And now, I have to live with it. I spent the next month watching myself. Every morning, I checked that mark. Some days it was barely visible. Other days it pulsed faintly under my skin, like a second heartbeat. I didn't tell anyone. Not Denise, not Shauna. What would I even say? I went about my life, consulting calls, grocery runs, helping Shauna pick out flowers for the wedding. But I was different. I noticed it in small ways. First, I used to get winded climbing stairs. Now I could jog up 3 flights without breaking a sweat. I used to need reading glasses. Suddenly I didn't. The arthritis in my left knee, something I'd lived with for 15 years, disappeared. I felt 30 again. No, younger. It terrified me. I went to my doctor for a full workup, told him I wanted everything checked. He ran blood tests, scans, the works. A week later, he called me into his office. "Margaret," he said, looking at the results, "I don't know how to explain this." "Explain what?" "Your markers. Your cholesterol, your blood pressure, your cellular health, everything looks like you're in your 30s. Maybe younger." I stared at him. "That's not possible," he continued. "Not at 62. Not without intervention." "What kind of intervention?" "I don't know. Are you taking anything? Supplements? Treatments?" "No." He frowned. "I'd like to run more tests." I left his office and never went back. I didn't want more tests. I didn't want more questions. I just wanted to understand what was happening to me. I started researching cellular regeneration, genetic mutations, longevity science. Most of it was academic jargon, but one phrase kept coming up: biological immortality. The idea that certain organisms, jellyfish, some types of flatworms, could regenerate indefinitely, could essentially reverse aging. It was theoretical in humans, or it was supposed to be. I thought about Dr. Vale's words, cellular regeneration at an unprecedented rate. I thought about my mother, how she looked young well into her 70s, how she died suddenly, not from age, but from an accident, a car crash. I'd never questioned it before, but now I did. I pulled out the old family photo albums Denise and I had split after Mama passed. I flipped through them slowly. Mama at 20, Mama at 40, Mama at 60. She barely changed. I looked at photos of her own mother, my grandmother. Same thing. And then I found a photo I'd never really looked at closely before. It was Mama as a young woman, maybe 19 or 20. She was standing in front of a building I didn't recognize. The sign was partially visible. Vail Research Institute. My hands went numb. I grabbed my phone and took a picture of the photo. Then I sent it to the journalist I'd contacted weeks ago. Her name was Kira Branch. She'd been polite but non-committal when I first reached out. This time, she called me within the hour. "Where did you get this?" she asked. "It's my mother, from the 1960s. "Do you know what this building is?" "No." "It's the original Vail Biogenetics facility. It was called something else back then, but same company, same founder." I felt the room tilt. "Margaret, I need to meet with you." We met 2 days later at a coffee shop in Durham. Kira was younger than I expected, maybe 35, sharp-eyed, with a notebook full of scribbled notes. She slid a folder across the table. "I've been investigating Vail Biogenetics for 3 years," she said. "They've been running genetic trials since the 1950s, targeting specific populations. Recruiting through heritage programs, DNA tests, genealogy services. Why? They're looking for people with rare genetic markers, markers that indicate enhanced healing, delayed aging, resistance to disease. And when they find them," she hesitated, "they extract biological material, sometimes with consent, sometimes without." I felt sick. "There've been disappearances," she continued, "people who attended their events and were never seen again, families who reported loved ones missing. But the cases always go cold. Vail has connections, politicians, law enforcement, medical boards. They're untouchable. So what do? You stay visible. You document everything. You don't go anywhere alone. That's it? Margaret, if they want you, they'll find a way. Your best protection is making sure people know your story." She paused. "And I think your mother knew something. I think she was part of this." I wanted to argue, but I couldn't. I went home that night and tore through every box, every drawer, every corner of my house looking for anything Mama might have left behind. Most of it was ordinary. Bills, recipes, church bulletins. But in the back of her closet, in a hat box I'd never opened, I found a journal. It was small, leather-bound. The pages were yellowed and fragile. I sat on the floor and opened it. The first entry was dated 1959. They told me it would help, that it would make me strong. I didn't understand what they meant. I kept reading. Mama had been part of a study. She was 17. Her family was poor, struggling. A man came to their church and offered money in exchange for participation in a medical trial. She agreed. They took blood, tissue samples. They injected her with something. "It hurt at first," she wrote, "but then I felt better than I ever had, stronger, sharper. They said I was special, that I carried something rare." The entries went on for months. She described the other participants, young women mostly, from different backgrounds, all with rare genetic markers. Some of them got sick. Some of them didn't come back. Mama stopped going after 6 months. She ran away, changed her name, started over. "I will never let them take my children," she wrote in the last entry. "Whatever is in me, it ends with me." But it didn't, because she had me, and Denise, and now I had Shauna. I closed the journal and sat there in the dark. My mother spent her whole life running from this, and I had walked right into it. The next morning, I called Denise and told her everything. She didn't believe me at first, but when I showed her the journal, her face went pale. "Maggie, what are we supposed to do?" "I don't know." "Do you think I have it too? Your DNA test didn't show the Carpathian marker, so maybe not." She looked relieved. Then guilty. "I'm sorry," she said. "It's not your fault." But part of me wondered, if she'd never given me that test, would I have ever known? Would I have been safer not knowing? I spent the next few weeks trying to live normally. Shauna's wedding was in 3 weeks. I threw myself into the planning. Seating charts, centerpieces, dress fittings. It felt good to focus on something real, something happy. But the mark on my arm kept glowing, and I kept getting stronger. One night, I was carrying a box of wedding favors up the stairs when I tripped. I should have fallen, should have broken something. Instead, I caught myself mid-air, just stopped. Like gravity didn't apply to me for a second. I set the box down and stared at my hands. This wasn't just regeneration. This was something else. I called Kira. "Something's happening to me," I said. "What do you mean?" I told her. The strength, the reflexes, the mark. She was quiet for a long time. "Margaret, I think you need to disappear." "I can't. My daughter's getting married." "Then at least let me assign someone to watch you. A private investigator. Someone who can—" "No. I'm not living like that." "Then you're taking a risk." "I've been taking a risk my whole life. I just didn't know it." I hung up. I wasn't going to hide. I wasn't going to run. If Vale wanted me, they'd have to come for me in broad daylight. Shauna's wedding was beautiful. It was held at a garden venue just outside Charlotte. Warm sun, white flowers, 200 guests. I walked her down the aisle, my baby girl. I held it together until the vows. Then I cried like everyone else. At the reception, I danced, I laughed. I hugged people I hadn't seen in years. For a few hours, I forgot about everything. But then during the toasts, I saw him. Dr. Vale. He was standing at the back of the tent. Dark suit, hands in his pockets, watching me. My blood went cold. I excused myself and walked toward him. He didn't move. "What are you doing here?" I said quietly. "Congratulating you. Your daughter is lovely. You need to leave." "I'm not here to cause trouble, Margaret. I'm here to make you an offer." "I don't want anything from you." "You will," he smiled. "In about 6 months, you're going to notice more changes. Faster healing, enhanced senses, increased strength, and then, around the 1-year mark, you'll stop aging altogether." I felt dizzy. "Your mother fought it," he continued. "She tried to suppress it, but it doesn't work that way. The mutation activates on its own timeline, and once it does, there's no going back. What do you want from me?" "Your cooperation. We're developing a treatment, a way to replicate what you have. Imagine it. Cancer cured, aging reversed, humanity transformed. By experimenting on people without their consent. By using what nature has already given us." I stepped closer. "You took pieces of my mother. You took pieces of me. And you think I'm going to help you? You don't have a choice. If you don't work with us, we'll take what we need another way." "Is that a threat?" "It's a fact." He turned to leave. "Stay away from my family," I said. He glanced back. "I'll be in touch." And then he was gone. I stood there, shaking. I found Denise near the bar. "We need to go," I said. "What? Why?" "I'll explain later. Just get Shauna somewhere safe." "Maggie, you're scaring me." "Good. You should be scared." That night, after the reception ended, I sat Shauna and Denise down and told them everything. Shauna didn't believe me. She thought I was having some kind of breakdown. Denise backed me up, showed her the journal. Shauna's face went white. "Mom, what does this mean for me?" "I don't know, baby, but we're going to figure it out." "Am I going to turn into whatever you're turning into?" "I don't know." She started crying. Her new husband, Marcus, held her. I felt like I'd destroyed the happiest day of her life. But I didn't have a choice. The truth was coming whether we wanted it or not. Over the next 2 months, I documented everything. I kept a journal like my mother had. I recorded videos. I took photos of the mark as it grew brighter. I sent copies to Kira, my lawyer, to Denise. If something happened to me, people would know. And then One night in late July, I woke up to the sound of breaking glass. I shot out of bed. Downstairs, I heard footsteps. I grabbed my phone and called 911. "Someone's in my house," I whispered. "Stay on the line, ma'am. Officers are on the way." I locked my bedroom door and pushed the dresser in front of it. The footsteps came closer, then stopped. A voice on the other side of the door. Male. Calm. "Margaret, we're not here to hurt you. We just need you to come with us." "The police are coming." "No, they're not." I heard a beep. My phone went dead. They jammed the signal. I looked around the room. No weapon. No way out except the window. I went to the window and opened it. 2 stories up. Normally I'd break a leg, but I wasn't normal anymore. I jumped. I landed in the grass, perfectly balanced. I ran. Behind me, I heard shouts. I cut through my neighbor's yard, into the woods behind the subdivision. I ran faster than I ever had in my life. My body moved like liquid. No pain, no exhaustion, just speed. I didn't stop until I reached the main road. I flagged down a car, an older man. I begged him to take me to the police station. He did. I filed a report, told them everything. They sent officers to my house. The intruders were gone. My front door was open. My bedroom was untouched. No evidence. The officers looked at me like I was crazy. I went to stay with Denise. For 2 weeks, nothing happened. Then Shauna called me, crying. "Mom, someone followed me home from work." "Are you sure?" "Yes, a black SUV. It was behind me for 20 minutes. "Where are you now?" "At home. Marcus is here. Lock the doors. Don't open them for anyone." I called Kiera, told her what was happening. "They're escalating," she said. "They know you're not going to cooperate, so they're going after your family." "What do I do?" "You give them what they want." "No. Margaret, listen to me. If you don't, they'll take Shauna. They'll take Denise. And they'll use them to get to you anyway." I hung up. I sat in Denise's living room, staring at the wall. I thought about my mother, how she ran, how she hid, how it didn't matter in the end. I thought about Shauna, about the life she was just starting. And I made a decision. I called Dr. Vale. He answered on the first ring. "Margaret, I'll do it. I'll cooperate, but you leave my family alone." Of course, I want it in writing. Done. And I want Kira Branch to witness the agreement. He paused. "That's acceptable." We met 3 days later at a law office in Raleigh. Kira was there. So was my lawyer. Dr. Vale brought a contract. It was 20 pages long. It said I would participate in their research program. Blood draws, scans, tissue samples. In exchange, my family would be left alone. They would receive a monthly stipend. And I would have access to the findings. I read it twice. Then I signed. Dr. Vale smiled. "Thank you, Margaret. You're doing something incredible." "I'm doing what I have to." He handed me a folder. "Your first appointment is Monday, 9 a.m. I took it. Kiera walked me to my car. "Are you sure about this?" she asked. "No, but I don't have a choice." "There's always a choice. Not when your child's life is on the line." She nodded. "I'll keep digging. Maybe I can find something that'll get you out of this." "Thanks." I drove home. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the contract, about what I'd just agreed to. But I also kept thinking about something Dr. Vale had said. "You're doing something incredible. Not we, you. Like I was the one in control. And maybe I was. Maybe they needed me more than I needed them." I got out of bed and went to my laptop. I started researching everything I could find on Vale Biogenetics. Their funding sources, their board members, their partnerships. And I found something interesting. They were on the verge of bankruptcy. 3 failed drug trials in the past 5 years, lawsuits, investor pullouts. They were desperate, and I was their last hope. I smiled. If they needed me that badly, Then I had leverage. Real leverage. I picked up my phone and called Dr. Vale. Margaret, it's late. I want to renegotiate. Silence. What do you mean? I mean, I know you're broke. I know this is your last shot. And I know that without me, you have nothing. More silence. So here's what's going to happen, I continued. I'll participate in your research. But I want full access to the data. I want oversight of how it's used. And I want a seat on your board. That's absurd. Then find someone else. I hung up. He called back 2 minutes later. Fine. I grinned. Good. I'll see you Monday. And that's how I stopped being a victim and started being a player. Like and subscribe if this story resonates with you. Tell me about the moment you realized you had more power than you thought. Monday morning, I walked into the Vale Biogenetics facility with my head high. It was a sleek building in Research Triangle Park, all glass and steel, security at every entrance. Dr. Vale met me in the lobby. Welcome, Margaret. Let's get this over with. He led me to a private wing, medical equipment, observation rooms. It looked more like a hospital than a research lab. A nurse took my vitals, drew blood, ran scans. I watched everything carefully, asked questions. What are you looking for? Markers that indicate accelerated cellular repair, the nurse said. Chromosomal anomalies, protein expressions. And if you find them, we isolate them, study them, see if we can replicate them in other people. She hesitated. Eventually, after 3 hours of tests, Dr. Zale walked me to his office. It was massive. Floor-to-ceiling windows, expensive furniture, degrees on the wall from universities I'd never heard of. He poured himself a drink. Didn't offer me one. Your markers are extraordinary, he said. Even more advanced than we anticipated. Good for you. Margaret, I know you don't trust me, but I need you to understand what we're doing here could save millions of lives. By experimenting on people who don't know what they're agreeing to. By using volunteers. Is that what my mother was? A volunteer? He looked away. She was young, naive. She didn't understand the scope of what we were offering. You took advantage of her. We gave her an opportunity. I stood up. I'm not my mother. I'm not scared. And I'm not gonna let you bury this. What are you talking about? And you talking about full transparency. I'm talking about publishing the research, making it public, so people know what you're really doing. His face darkened. That wasn't part of our agreement. Then change the agreement. Then what are you talking about? You don't have the authority. Now what do you talking about? He stared at me, nodding. Finally, he nodded. Fine, but you'll regret this. I doubt it. I left his office feeling lighter than I had in months. For the first time since this whole thing started, I felt like I was in control. Over the next few weeks, I attended board meetings, reviewed research proposals, asked uncomfortable questions. The other board members hated me. Good. I also kept documenting everything. Every test, every result, every conversation. Kira published her first article in late September. It was explosive. Vale Biogenetics, the company harvesting human genetics without consent. It detailed the history, the disappearances, the unethical trials, and it named me as a source. The response was immediate. News outlets picked it up. Advocacy groups got involved. Lawmakers started asking questions. Vale's stock tanked. Dr. Vale called me furious. You've destroyed everything. No, I've exposed everything. There's a difference. You signed a contract, and I'm honoring it. I'm participating in your research. I never said I wouldn't talk about it. He hung up. 2 days later, I got a letter from Vale's legal team. They were threatening to sue me for breach of contract. I forwarded it to my lawyer. She laughed. They have no case. You're protected under whistleblower laws. Good. But I knew this wasn't over. In early October, I started feeling strange again. Not sick, just different. The mark on my arm was brighter than ever, almost glowing. And I was changing faster now. I didn't need sleep, didn't need much food. My senses were sharper. I could hear conversations from across a room, could see in near darkness. It was exhilarating and terrifying. I went back to Vale for more tests. The results shocked everyone. Your cellular age is reversing, Dr. Vale said, staring at the screen. You're biologically younger than you were 6 months ago. How much younger? About 15 years. I felt my stomach drop. What does that mean? It means the mutation is fully active, and it's accelerating. Will it stop? We don't know. I thought about my mother, about how young she looked, about how she died in that car crash. What if it doesn't stop? I asked quietly. He didn't answer. That night, I looked at myself in the mirror. My skin was smoother. My hair was thicker. The lines around my eyes were gone. I looked 50. Maybe younger. I should have been happy. But all I felt was dread. Because if I kept getting younger, what would happen? Would I regress to nothing? Would I disappear? I called Kira. I need to go public, I said. Fully. I need to tell my story before it's too late. It's all right, pretty parts of me, everything good. I told them everything. The DNA test, the invitation, the experiments, the changes happening to my body. I showed them the mark, the test results, the journal. The response was overwhelming. Thousands of people came forward with similar stories. DNA tests that led to strange invitations. Family members who disappeared after attending heritage events. A class action lawsuit was filed against Vale Biogenetics. The FBI opened an investigation. Dr. Vale was arrested, and I became the face of the movement. People called me brave, a hero, but I didn't feel like either. I felt like someone who was running out of time, because the changes didn't stop. By November, I looked 40. By December, I looked 30. Shauna didn't know how to talk to me anymore. Mom, you look younger than me, she said one day, tears in her eyes. I know, baby. What's going to happen to you? I don't know. She hugged me. And I held her like I used to when she was small. But now she was the one comforting me. The research continued. Vale Biogenetics collapsed, but other companies stepped in. Universities, government agencies, everyone wanted to understand what was happening to me. I let them study me, let them take samples, let them document every change, because maybe, just maybe, something good could come from this. In late January, I got a call from a geneticist at Johns Hopkins. Margaret, we think we found something. What? A way to stabilize the mutation, to stop the regression. Huh. My heart leapt. How? It's experimental and risky, but if it works, you'll stop aging. You'll stay at your current biological age indefinitely. And if it doesn't work? She paused. It could kill you. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. Let's do it. And then the procedure was scheduled for February. I flew to Baltimore, checked into the hospital, signed the consent forms. Denise and Shauna came with me. The night before the procedure, we sat in my hospital room and talked about everything, about nothing, about all the things we'd been too scared to say. I'm proud of you, Maggie, Denise said. Mama would be too. You think so? I know so. Shauna held my hand. Promise me you'll wake up. I promise. The next morning they wheeled me into surgery. The last thing I remember is the anesthesiologist telling me to count backward from 10. I got to 7. When I woke up, I was in recovery. Denise was sitting next to me. "Hey," she said softly. "Did it work?" "They think so. But they won't know for sure for a few weeks." I nodded and closed my eyes. 3 weeks later, the results came in. The mutation had stabilized. I wasn't aging, wasn't regressing. I was frozen at 34, and I would stay that way for the rest of my life. However long that turned out to be. People ask me if I'm happy about it. Honestly, I don't know. I've lost something, the natural progression of life. Growing old with my daughter, seeing my grandchildren grow up while I stay the same. But I've gained something too. Time, purpose, a platform to make sure what happened to my mother and to me never happens to anyone else. The lawsuit against Veil Biogenetics was settled last month. Every victim received compensation. Families got answers, and new laws were passed to regulate genetic research. It's not perfect, but it's something. As for me, I'm still here, still fighting, still trying to figure out what it means to live in a body that won't age while everyone around me does. Shauna had a baby last week, a little girl. She named her after my mother. When I held her, I thought about everything that's happened, everything I've been through, and I realized something. I'm not a victim anymore. I'm a survivor. And I'm going to use every single day I have, however many that turns out to be, to make sure this never happens again. Like this video and subscribe if this journey moved you. I want to hear your story, the truth you've been carrying. I thought the hardest part was over. I was wrong. The first year after the procedure was strange. I watched Shauna's daughter grow from newborn to toddler while I stayed exactly the same. I watched Denise's hair turn more gray. I watched my friends age in ways I couldn't. At first, people were fascinated. I was interviewed, featured in medical journals, invited to speak at conferences about genetic ethics. But fascination fades, and what's left is the reality of being frozen while life moves on around you. I started noticing it in small ways. The way Shauna introduced me to people. "This is my mom, Margaret." And then the inevitable confusion, the double takes, the awkward questions. The way men my own biological age hit on me at the grocery store, while men my actual age ignored me completely. The way I couldn't relate to people anymore. Not really. I was 64 years old, but I looked 34. I had decades of experience, but no one took me seriously. It was isolating in ways I hadn't anticipated. By the second year, I'd mostly withdrawn from public life. I still consulted, still worked, but I kept to myself. I moved to a small town in the mountains of North Carolina, bought a cabin, got a dog. I told myself I was fine, but I wasn't. I was lonely. And then in late spring, something changed. I got a message on the victim support forum I'd helped create after the lawsuit. It was from a woman named Ava. "Margaret, I think I'm like you, and I don't know what to do." I stared at the message for a long time before responding. "Tell me what's happening." She wrote back immediately. She was 49. She'd taken a DNA test 3 years ago through a different company. Got invited to a heritage event. Participated in what she thought was a harmless study. Now she was experiencing the same changes I had. Increased strength, enhanced healing, reversal of aging. "I'm scared," she wrote. "I've read everything about you, about what happened, but I don't know if the procedure you had is even available anymore." She was right. The hospital had discontinued the program after I was the only successful case. Too risky, too experimental. "Where are you located?" I asked. "Outside Portland, Oregon." "Stay there. I'm coming to you." I booked a flight that night. 2 days later, I was sitting across from Ava in a coffee shop in Portland. She looked like she could be my sister. Biologically, we were probably about the same age now. But chronologically, she was 15 years older. "I don't know what to do," she said quietly. "My husband doesn't understand. My kids think I'm going crazy. And the company that ran the test? They've disappeared. No records, No contact information. Nothing. That's what they do, I said. They extract what they need and vanish. So what do? You fight back. You document everything. You go public. And you find others like us. There are others? I think so. I've gotten messages, emails, people too scared to come forward. She looked at me with a mixture of hope and fear. Will you help me? Yes. Over the next 6 months, Ava and I built a network. We found 12 others, men and women. Different ages, different backgrounds, all with the same story. DNA test, heritage event, experimental study, genetic mutation. Some were further along than others. Some were just starting to notice changes. One man, Daniel, was in his 70s chronologically, but looked 50. Another woman, Yolanda, was in her 30s and terrified she'd regress into childhood. We met in person once. A small gathering at my cabin. It was surreal. Sitting in a room with people who understood, who were going through the same impossible thing. We shared stories, strategies, resources, and we made a plan. We were going to find out who was behind this, not just Vale Biogenetics, the whole operation. Because Dr. Vale was in prison, but someone had funded him. Someone had provided the research. Someone had access to the original Carpathian Highland genetic data. We started digging. Daniel was a retired investigator. He had contacts, resources. Yolanda was a data analyst. She knew how to trace financial records. Ava was a journalist before she became a teacher. She knew how to ask the right questions. And I had name recognition. People listened to me. Together, we were formidable. We discovered that Vale Biogenetics was just one branch of a much larger network. There were at least 6 other companies doing similar work. Different names, different countries, but the same goal: genetic enhancement, life extension, biological immortality. And they were all funded by the same shell corporation, a company called Helix Longevity Group, based in Switzerland. We couldn't find much about them. No public records, no board members, no CEO. Just money flowing in and out of accounts across the world. This is bigger than we thought, Daniel said. Way bigger, Yolanda agreed. We kept digging, and then one night, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Margaret? The voice was male, older, unfamiliar. Who is this? Someone who can help you. I almost hung up, but something stopped me. Help me how? I know what you're looking for. I know who's behind Helix, and I know why. Then tell me, not over the phone. Meet me tomorrow, noon. There's a park in Asheville, Fletcher Park. Come alone. I'm not meeting a stranger alone. Then bring someone you trust, but only one person. And Margaret, don't tell anyone else. If Helix finds out I'm talking to you, I'm dead. He hung up. I sat there, heart pounding. I called Ava. I need you to come to North Carolina. She arrived the next morning. We drove to Fletcher Park together, parked near the entrance, scanned the area. There was an older man sitting on a bench near the pond. White hair, glasses. He looked like someone's grandfather. He saw us and nodded. We approached carefully. Margaret, he said, thank you for coming. Who are you? My name is Dr. Elias Cohn. I used to work for Helix 40 years ago. Ava and I exchanged a glance. Why did you leave? I asked. Because I realized what they were really doing. He gestured for us to sit. We did. Helix was founded in the 1940s, he began. Right after World War II, a group of scientists, some German, some American, some British, came together with a singular goal: to unlock the secret to human longevity. Why? Because they were terrified of death, and they had the resources to do something about it. He pulled out a folder, old documents, faded photographs. They started by studying populations with unusual genetic markers. The Carpathian Highland peoples were one of them. But there were others. Indigenous groups in Siberia, isolated tribes in the Andes, communities in rural Japan. They were experimenting on them, Ava said. Yes, extracting DNA, testing genetic therapies, and in some cases, creating hybrids. I felt sick. What is a hybrid? People who carried multiple genetic markers, enhanced, optimized. The goal was to create a human who could live indefinitely. Did it work? He looked at me. You tell me. The weight of his words settled over me. You think I'm one of them. I think your mother was part of the early trials, and I think you inherited the results. But I'm not a hybrid. I'm just what? Aging backward? Stronger than you should be? Healing faster than normal? He leaned forward. Margaret, you're not a mistake. You're the result of 70 years of genetic manipulation. Just what? I finally asked. Because Helix is still working. Yes, because Helix is still active, and they're accelerating. They've identified at least 200 people worldwide with the markers, and they're planning something. What? A harvest. The word hung in the air, like poison. They're going to take you, all of you, extract what they need. And then? He stopped. And then what? And then dispose of the evidence. Ava stood up. We need to go to the police, the FBI, someone. They won't help you, Dr. Cohn said. Helix has people everywhere. Law enforcement, government, medical institutions. You can't trust anyone. Then what do we do? I asked. He handed me a flash drive. Everything I know is on here. Names, locations, financial records. Use it. Expose them, but do it fast, because they're coming for you. When? Soon. He stood up. Wait, I said. Why are you helping us? He looked at me with tired eyes. Because I helped create you. And I've spent the last 40 years trying to atone for it. He walked away. Ava and I sat there, stunned. Finally, she spoke. We need to warn the others. Yes. We drove back to my cabin. I plugged in the flash drive. It was extensive. Decades of research, test subjects, facilities, financial transactions, and a list. 217 names. People with the genetic markers. My name was there. So was Ava's. So were the others in our group. But there were so many more. People who had no idea what was inside them. We have to reach them, Ava said. How? We don't even know most of them. Then we go public. Again. Bigger this time. I thought about it. Going public the first time had nearly destroyed me. The scrutiny, the disbelief, the threats. But what choice did we have? Okay, I said. Let's do it. We contacted Kira. She'd moved on from investigative journalism to documentary filmmaking. She flew to North Carolina the next day. We spent a week compiling everything. Interviews, documents, evidence. Kira worked fast. The documentary premiered online in early December. It was called The Immortality Project. Within 24 hours, it had 10 million views. Within a week, it had 50 million. The response was overwhelming. News outlets picked it up. Governments launched investigations. Helix's shell corporations were raided, and people started coming forward. Dozens of them, then hundreds, all with the same story. DNA test, invitation, mutation. We'd uncovered something massive, but we'd also made ourselves targets. 2 weeks after the documentary aired, my cabin was burned down. I wasn't home. I'd been staying with Ava in Portland. But everything I owned was gone. The message was clear. Stop. Or else. I didn't stop. Instead, I went on national television. I told my story again, showed the evidence again, named names, and I made a promise. I will not be silenced. None of us will. And we will not stop until every single person responsible is held accountable. The next day, I got a call from the Department of Justice. They wanted to meet. I flew to Washington with Ava, Daniel, and Yolanda. We met with a task force, FBI, CIA, Interpol. They'd been tracking Helix for years, but they'd never had enough evidence until now. We need your help, the lead investigator said. We need you to testify, to go on record, all of you. And then what? I asked. And then we dismantle them. Every facility, every account, every person involved. And what happens to us, to the people with the mutations? She hesitated. We're working on that. It wasn't good enough, but it was something. We agreed to cooperate. Over the next 6 months, we gave depositions, provided evidence, identified victims. Arrests were made, assets were frozen. Facilities were shut down. Helix Longevity Group collapsed. But the people at the top, the ones pulling the strings, disappeared. They had too much money, too many connections. They vanished into the shadows. And we were left with the aftermath. 217 people with genetic mutations. No cure, no reversal. Just the reality of living with something we never asked for. Some handled it better than others. A few embraced it, saw it as a gift. Others struggled, fell into depression, couldn't reconcile what they'd become. 3 took their own lives. I think about them often, about how this thing that was supposed to be extraordinary became unbearable. As for me, I'm still here, still 34 biologically, still 65 chronologically. I've started a foundation for people like us, support groups, medical research, legal advocacy. It's not much, but it's something. Shauna's daughter is 3 now. She calls me Grandma Maggie. She doesn't understand why I don't look like other grandmas. Someday, I'll have to explain. But not yet. For now, I just hold her, play with her, love her, and I try not to think about the fact that I'll look exactly the same when she's 30, or 50, or older. Denise asked me once if I regret taking that DNA test. I told her I didn't know, because, yes, it destroyed my life. But it also gave me purpose. It connected me to people I never would have met. It exposed a system that had been harming people for decades. It made me fight, and I'm good at fighting, so no, I don't regret it. I just wish I'd had a choice. That's the thing people don't understand. This was done to me, to all of us. We didn't choose this, but we're choosing what to do with it now, and that makes all the difference. Last month, I got another message from someone claiming to have information about the people who escaped, the ones at the top of Helix. I'm meeting them next week. I don't know if it's a trap. Don't know if it's real. But I'm going anyway. Because this isn't over. It won't be over until every single person who did this is held accountable. Until every victim gets justice. Until the truth is fully told. And I have nothing but time, so I'll keep fighting. For as long as it takes, however long that turns out to be. Because someone has to. And it might as well be me. If this story touched you, if you've ever had to fight for the truth when no one believed you, like this video and subscribe. Leave a comment telling me your story, the one you thought you'd never tell. 5 years after Denise came home from the hospital, I buried her. It was a gray morning in March, cold but not freezing. The kind of day where spring feels close but hasn't quite arrived. Shauna held my arm as we stood by the graveside. She was 45 now. Silver streaks in her hair, lines around her eyes. I looked exactly the same as I had at her wedding. People stared. I was used to it by now. The pastor spoke about Denise's life, her kindness, her strength, her love for family. I barely heard him. All I could think about was the last conversation we'd had. 2 days before she died, I'd sat beside her bed. She was on hospice by then, comfortable, but fading. Maggie, she'd whispered, "Promise me something. Anything. Don't waste this. Whatever time you have, don't waste it." I won't. And don't forget us. Don't forget what it means to be human. Her words haunted me now, because the truth was, I was starting to forget. Not the memories, those were still sharp, but the feeling of being mortal, of knowing your time was limited. I didn't get tired anymore, didn't get sick, didn't feel the passage of time the way other people did. Days blurred into weeks, weeks into months, and before I knew it, 5 years had passed. Denise was gone. Shauna's daughter was 8 years old, and I was still 34. After the funeral, people came back to Shauna's house. I helped serve food, made small talk, hugged people who told me how strong I was. But I didn't feel strong. I felt hollow. Around sunset, I slipped outside. I stood in the backyard, staring at nothing. That's when Marcus found me. Shauna's husband. He was a good man, patient, kind. I went into it a little. But I said, "Not really, not really." He stood beside me, hands in his pockets. "Shauna's worried about you." "I know. She thinks you're isolating yourself." "Maybe I am." Then he was quiet for a moment, and he stood beside me, hands in his pockets. I went to pause for a moment. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Sure. Do you ever regret it? Living this long?" I looked at him, really looked at him. He was 50 now, starting to go gray, a little heavier than he used to be. He would age, he would die. And I would still be here. "Every day," I said quietly. He nodded like he understood. "For what it's worth," he said, "I'm glad you're here. Shauna needs you, so does Ella." Ella, Shauna's daughter, my granddaughter. She was the reason I kept going most days. "Thanks, Marcus." He patted my shoulder and went back inside. I stayed outside until the stars came out. The foundation kept me dizzy. We'd helped over 300 people by now, victims of genetic experimentation from different companies, different countries, different programs. Helix had been the biggest. But it wasn't the only one. There were others. Always others. Chasing immortality, chasing perfection, using people as test subjects. We fought them where we could, exposed them, sued them, shut them down, but new ones always appeared. It was exhausting. Some days I wondered if we were making any difference at all. Then I'd get a letter, or an email, or a phone call from someone we'd helped, someone who'd found support, medical care, legal justice, someone who'd survived because we were there. And I'd remember why I started this. Not for me, for them. 6 months after Denise's funeral, something strange happened. I was at the foundation office, reviewing a grant proposal, when Yolanda burst in. "Margaret, you need to see this." She pulled up a video on her laptop. It was a news report from Germany. A scientist had published a paper claiming he'd successfully reversed the aging process in human subjects. My stomach dropped. "Please tell me this is legitimate research," I said. Yolanda shook her head. "Look at the funding source." I looked. A shell corporation, based in the Cayman Islands. The same structure Helix had used. "They're still doing it," I said. "Worse, they're claiming they've perfected it." I watched the rest of the report. The scientist, Dr. Emil Strauss, showed before and after photos of subjects who'd allegedly been aged 70 and were now biologically 40. Voluntary participants, he claimed. Full consent, full transparency. But I knew better. I'd heard these promises before. "We need to investigate," I said. Yolanda nodded. "I already started. I've got Daniel looking into Strauss. And I've reached out to some contacts in Europe. So, keep me posted." And May is the biggest unknown that Elon makes as we gather the symbol of offer. Dr. Strauss' face froze in mid-smile. So certain. Like he'd cracked the code. Like he'd done what Helix never could. But I knew the truth. There was no perfecting this. Only victims. Over the next month, we dug deep. Daniel found financial connections between Strauss and former Helix researchers. Yolanda traced the Shell Corporation to a network of offshore accounts tied to pharmaceutical companies. And I found something else. Test subjects who'd gone missing. Participants who'd started the program and never finished. Families who hadn't heard from their loved ones in months. It was Helix all over again, just with a new name and a better marketing campaign. I contacted Kiera. She was working on a different project, but when I told her what we'd found, she dropped everything. "How deep does this go?" she asked. "Deep. We're talking multiple countries, hundreds of potential victims. Do you have proof?" "Some, but we need more. We need someone on the inside." She thought for a moment. "I might know someone, a researcher in Berlin. She's been trying to expose unethical trials for years. Can you connect us?" "I'll try." 2 weeks later, I was on a plane to Berlin. Kira's contact was a woman named Dr. Raina Schwartz. She was in her 50s, sharp-eyed, with the kind of weariness that comes from fighting losing battles. We met at a cafe in Kreuzberg. "You're taking a risk meeting with me," I said. "I'm aware, but I've been watching Strauss for 2 years. He's dangerous. Tell me what you know." She pulled out a folder. Inside were medical records, consent forms, lab results. "Strauss claims his subjects are volunteers. But look at this." She pointed to a consent form. The signature was shaky. The date was smudged. This woman was diagnosed with early-onset dementia. She couldn't legally consent to experimental treatment. But Strauss treated her anyway. Yes, and she's not the only one. More than half went to trials for months, and patients desperate for hope. Homeless people offered money. All of them experimented on. Most of them disappeared. "It's SADUT. Where are they now?" I asked. "I don't know. Strauss moves them after the initial treatment, says it's for privacy. But I think it's to hide the failures." "Failures?" "Yes. Not everyone survives the process. And the ones who do, some of them have severe complications. Neurological damage, organ failure, psychological breaks. Part A. I felt sick. And he felt sick. I need to stop him. I've tried. I've reported him to medical boards, ethics committees, law enforcement. No one will listen. Then we'll make them listen. Doctor. I spent the next 3 days in Berlin gathering evidence. Schwartz introduced me to families of missing subjects. I interviewed former employees who'd quit because they couldn't stomach what Strauss was doing. Then, I visited the facility where the treatments were conducted. From the outside, it looked legitimate, clean, professional. But inside, I knew people were suffering. Back in the States, we compiled everything into a report. Kira turned it into a documentary. We released it online in late summer. The response was immediate. European authorities launched an investigation. Strauss's facility was raided. Medical licenses were suspended. But Strauss himself disappeared, just like the Helix founders had, just like they always did. "They're protecting him," Daniel said. "Whoever's funding this, they've got resources." "Then we find them," I said, "and we expose them too." But it was harder than I thought. The trail went cold. The shell corporations dissolved. The money vanished. We were fighting shadows, and I was tired. Not physically. I never got physically tired anymore. But emotionally, spiritually, I was tired of fighting. Tired of watching people suffer. tired of being the only one who remembered. I went back to therapy. Dr. Okoye had retired, but she'd referred me to a colleague, Dr. Patel. He was younger, more clinical, but he understood. "You're experiencing what we call survivor's fatigue," he said. "You've been fighting for so long that it's become your identity, but you're burning out. So what do? You give yourself permission to rest, to step back, to let others carry the load. But if I don't do it, who will? Margaret, you've built an entire organization. You've trained advocates, funded research, changed laws. The work will continue, whether you're leading it or not." I wanted to believe him, but I didn't know how to let go. This was my purpose, my reason for existing. Without it, what was I? I started pulling back. Slowly. I let Yolanda take over more of the foundation's operations. I let other advocates speak at conferences. I let researchers lead the charge on investigations. And I tried to focus on the things that mattered most. Family. Shauna's daughter, Ella, was 10 now. She was smart, curious, full of energy. She asked me questions constantly. "Grandma Maggie, why don't you look old?" "It's complicated, sweetheart. But you're old, right? Like really old." "I'm 73. Her eyes went wide. "That's ancient," I laughed. "Thanks. But you don't look ancient. You look like Mom's friend." "I know, it's unusual." She thought about that. "Do you like it, being young forever?" I considered lying, but Ella deserved the truth. "Sometimes, but mostly, it's hard." "Why?" "Because I have to watch everyone I love get older while I stay the same." She was quiet for a moment. Then she climbed into my lap. "I'm sorry, Grandma Maggie." I held her close. "It's okay, baby. Will you be here when I'm old?" "Yes, good." "I want you to be." Ish to stroke. That conversation stayed with me, because Ella was right. I would be here. Long after Shauna was gone, and long after Ella was gone. Long after everyone I knew now had disappeared. I had to find a way to be okay with that, and age, in my inner thoughts. The breakthrough came on a Tuesday. I was at home reading when my phone rang. It was Ava. She found someone. "Margaret, I found someone." "Who?" "A survivor. From Strauss's program." My pulse quickened. "Where?" "Prague." She reached out through the Foundation's website. "She's willing to talk." I'm on my way. I flew to Prague the next day. The woman's name was Petra. She was 43 chronologically, but she looked 60, the opposite of what Strauss had promised. We met in her apartment. It was small, cluttered, dark. She looked haunted. "Thank you for seeing me," I said. She nodded, didn't speak. "Can you tell me what happened?" She took a breath. "I was 51 when I signed up for Dr. Strauss's program. I had breast cancer, stage 4. I was dying. I'm sorry. He said he could save me. Reverse my cellular age, cure the cancer." "And did he?" "And did he? The cancer's gone, but everything else." She lifted her sleeve. Her arm was covered in lesions, scars, strange discolorations. "I'm aging faster now, not slower. My body is breaking down. Have you seen a doctor? And her strengths aren't gone." Remember, the doctors said she cured her cancer. The cancer's gone, but everything else. She lifted her sleeve. Her arm was covered in lesions, scars, strange discolorations. And I'm aging faster now, not slower. "Have you seen a doctor?" And she lifted her sleeve. Her arm was covered in lesions, scars, strange discolorations. Strange discolorations. Strong, many. No one knows how to help me. The damage is too severe. I felt a wave of anger. "Petra, I need you to go on record, to tell your story." "Will it stop him?" I don't know. But it might save someone else. She agreed. Kiera flew to Prague to film the interview. Petra told everything, the promises, the procedures, the aftermath. It was devastating to watch, but it was also powerful. We released the interview online. Within days, 6 more survivors came forward, all with similar stories. Promised youth, given deterioration. The pressure mounted. European authorities issued an arrest warrant for Dr. Strauss, and this time they found him. He was hiding in a villa in Monaco, living off the money he'd made from desperate people. He was extradited, tried, convicted, sentenced 20 years in prison. It wasn't enough, but it was something. After the trial, I stayed in Europe for a while. I met with more survivors, helped them connect with medical resources, started a European branch of the foundation, and I tried to find peace with what we'd accomplished. We hadn't stopped genetic experimentation entirely. We never would. As long as people feared death, there would be those willing to exploit that fear. But we'd saved lives, exposed criminals, changed laws. We'd made a difference, and maybe that was enough. I returned home in early winter. Shauna met me at the airport. She hugged me tight. I missed you, Mom. I missed you too. We drove to her house. Ella ran out to greet me. She was almost 11 now, growing so fast. Grandma Maggie, I made you something. She handed me a drawing. It was a picture of the 2 of us, stick figures holding hands. Above it, she'd written, "My grandma is a superhero." I felt tears prick my eyes. ... Thank you, baby. I love it. That night, after Ella went to bed, Shauna and I sat on the porch. "You look tired," she said. "I am. Maybe it's time to slow down. I've been thinking about that." She looked at me. "Really?" "Yeah, I'm 73 years old, Shauna. I've spent the last decade fighting. Maybe it's time to let someone else lead." "What would you do instead?" "I don't know, spend time with you and Ella. Travel, read, live." She smiled. "I'd like that." "Me too." We sat in comfortable silence. Then Shauna spoke again. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Do you think you'll ever stop? Aging, I mean. Or will you just stay 34 forever?" "I don't know. The doctors can't predict it. Does that scare you?" "Sometimes, but I'm learning to accept it." "How?" I thought about that. By focusing on what I can control, the relationships I have, the work I do. The moments I'm present for. Like right now. Exactly like right now. She leaned her head on my shoulder. "I'm glad you're here, Mom. I'm glad I'm here too." The next morning, I made a decision. I called an emergency board meeting at the foundation. Yolanda, Daniel, and 3 other board members joined via video call. "I'm stepping down as director," I said. There was silence. Then Yolanda spoke. "Margaret, are you sure?" "Yes, I'll stay on the board. I'll consult. But I need someone else to lead day-to-day operations." "Why now?" "Because I've been doing this for 10 years, and I'm losing sight of why I started." I paused. I started this to help people, to prevent what happened to me from happening to others. But somewhere along the way, it became about the fight, about winning, about revenge. "That's not true," Daniel said gently. "Isn't it? When was the last time I sat with a survivor just to listen? Not to gather evidence or build a case, but just to be there." No one answered. "I want to get back to that," I said, "to the human part of this work, and I can't do that if I'm running the organization." Yolanda nodded slowly. "Okay, if that's what you need." And Yolanda would take over as director. "And then we support you." We voted. It was unanimous. I would transition out over the next 3 months. Yolanda would take over as director. And I would finally rest. The transition was harder than I expected. Strongly paused there, trusting others, accepting that the work would continue without me. But it also felt right. I spent more time with Shauna and Ella. something I'd always wanted to try but never had time for. Pineo. I reconnected with old friends. Pineo. I traveled, not for work, but for pleasure. Pineo. I went to Paris, Tokyo, Cape Town. I saw the world through fresh eyes, and slowly I remembered what it felt like to be human. Not just a survivor, not just an advocate, Pineo, but a person, with interests, hobbies, relationships, a life. One afternoon, about a year after I stepped down, I was painting in my studio when my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. Hello? Is this Margaret? Pineo. Strong is... Yes. Who's this? My name is Sophie. I'm calling from the foundation. I need help. My heart sank. What's wrong? I took a DNA test 6 months ago, and now people are following me, calling me, saying I have something they need. Where are you? Portland. Listen to me carefully. Do not go anywhere alone. Do not answer any calls from numbers you don't recognize. And contact the foundation immediately. Ask for Yolanda. But I wanted to talk to you. Yolanda will help you, I promise. But you're Margaret. You're the one who survived. My voice broke. Sorry for cutting that line. I closed my eyes. Sophie, I understand, but I'm not running the foundation anymore. Yolanda is just as capable. She'll take care of you. Please, just talk to me. For 5 minutes. I could have said no. I could have referred her again and hung up. Strong, Ted. But I didn't. Because I remembered what it felt like. To be terrified, alone, desperate for someone who understood. Okay, I said. Tell me what's happening. She did, and I listened. Not as the director of the foundation. Not as an advocate or a fighter. Just as someone who'd been there. Who understood. After 30 minutes, she was calmer. Thank you. She said, I feel better. Good, now call Yolanda. She'll help you through the next steps. I will, and Margaret, for all of us. I felt something shift in my chest. You're welcome, Sophie. I hung up, and I realized something. I didn't have to be the director to make a difference. I didn't have to be fighting every day to matter. I just had to be present, to listen, to care, to show up when it counted. That was enough. That evening, I called Shauna. Hey, Mom, what's up? I was thinking, how would you and Ella feel about going to the beach next week? Really? Yeah, just the 3 of us. Ella would love that. So would I. Now, let's do it. And spend the week in the Outer Banks, building sandcastles, collecting shells, watching sunsets. Ella laughed so much her cheeks hurt. Shauna relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in years. And I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. And I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Joy. Pure, uncomplicated joy. On our last night, we sat around a bonfire. Ella roasted marshmallows. Shauna told stories. And I just existed, not thinking about the past. Not worrying about the future, just being. Grandma Maggie, Ella said. Yeah, sweetie? When I grow up, I want to be like you. Like me how? Strong, brave, someone who helps people. My throat tightened. You already are, Ella. She smiled. Really? Shauna reached over and squeezed my hand. And in that moment, I understood. This was what Denise had meant. Don't waste it. Don't forget what it means to be human. Being human wasn't about how long you lived. It was about how you lived. The connections you made, the love you gave, the moments you were present for. That's what mattered. Not immortality, not perfection. Just being here, fully, completely, for as long as you had. And I had a long time, maybe forever, but I wasn't going to waste it fighting anymore. I was going to spend it living, loving, being present for Shauna, for Ella, for everyone who needed me. Not as a hero, just as myself. And that was more than enough. We drove home the next day. Ella fell asleep in the back seat, her head resting against the window. Shauna glanced at me. "You seem different," she said. "Different how?" "Lighter. Like you've let go of something." "I have." "What?" "The need to fix everything. To save everyone." She smiled. "Good. You deserve to rest." "You're not?" "No, because I've had a good life. A full life. And a lot of that is because of you." Tears slipped down my cheeks. "Thank you, baby. I love you, Mom. I love you too." That conversation stayed with me because Shauna was right. Life wasn't about how long it lasted. It was about what you did with it. And I was done wasting mine. 5 years later, I'm still here. Still 34 biologically. 78 chronologically. Shauna is 50. Ella is 16. The foundation is thriving under Yolanda's leadership. Dr. Strauss is still in prison. No new helix has emerged. And I found a kind of peace I never thought possible. I paint most days, volunteer at a local literacy center, spend time with family. I still get calls from survivors. I still listen, still help where I can. But it's not my whole life anymore. Period. Strong. About everyone I'd lost, and everyone I still had. I thought about the journey that brought me here. The DNA test, the invitation, the experiments, the mutation, the fight, the advocacy, the survivors. And I'm proud of that. Proud of the life I've built, the people I've helped, the love I've given and received. This isn't the life I imagined, but it's the life I have, and I'm going to live it every single day. With purpose, with presence, with gratitude, with gratefulness, for as long as I'm here, however long that turns out to be. Because that's what it means to be human. Not the years you're given, but what you do with them, how you love, how you fight, how you follow, how you show up. That's what matters. And I'm showing up every day for myself, for my family, for the people who need me. And I'll keep showing up until the very end, whenever that comes. If you made it this far, that's pretty long. Whenever that comes, if you made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. Life has a way of giving us things we never asked for, and sometimes those things break us open in ways that let the light in. If this resonated with you, if you've ever had to find strength you didn't know you had, hit that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment and tell me your story, the one that changed everything. I read every single one, and your words matter more than you know.